we're diving into calendar blocking. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's the difference between a to-do list versus calendar blocking? So let's break this down because there is an important distinction. So a to-do list is just you writing down every single thing that you need to do, anything that pops into your head, very similar to a brain dump, but it's more organized than a brain dump. But calendar blocking is actually putting those tasks from your to-do list onto your calendar. By doing this, you are carving out time inside your calendar to get each and everything done. Have you ever, at the end of the day, been like, oh my gosh, I have no idea where the day has gone. I have gotten nothing done, but I've got this giant to-do list. That's where calendar blocking could really help you because it transitions all those things that you need to get done off your to-do list and directly into your calendar. I love to use Google Calendar for this. They actually have a specific spot when you open up a new appointment, you can actually switch it from an appointment to a task. And this allows you a lot of flexibility in the fact that you can move these tasks around. So let's say that you get stuck in a meeting longer than you think you are. You can move that task down so that way it still accounts for the time you need to get it done, while still accounting for that meeting that we ran over. It's a super slick system, and whatever email server you use or calendar system you use, there's probably something very similar. Now, on that same token, you might be thinking, I'm not a digital person. I prefer pen to paper, and that's totally okay. Because doing that to-do list on pen and paper, what you could do is look at that, then write those tasks onto Post-it notes and move those tasks around within your calendar. That way, if you run out of time, you can still move them around, move them to the next day, whatever you need to do to make sure that those tasks are getting accomplished, but you're still doing it in the way that you're most comfortable, whether that's digital planning or paper planning. Now, when you're looking at your task list, is it just a bunch of jumbled stuff, or is it actually related to your goals? Or is that the part that you're actually missing? Because sometimes we get stuck in the minutia of the day-to-day, and these goals that we've set for ourselves back in January tend to be forgotten around this time of year. And now is the perfect time to circle back to those goals, go through your list of tasks associated with those goals, and start adding those into your calendar as well. So that way, every single day, you are pushing towards those goals, but in small bite-sized chunks so you don't feel overwhelmed. Now, you might be considering to yourself, okay, what would be a goal? It could be creating a course. It could be writing a book. It could be memorizing a speech. Anything that you know that's coming up in the future, it's much, much easier to break it down in small bite-sized chunks rather than trying to cram it all in at the very end when you know the deadline is super impending. Now, here's a question I get asked all the time. What do you do when you run out of time? When you don't know where you're going to find the time to do the tasks. And one thing that I will say is that you might not be breaking down the tasks enough. So if you have checked out my free guide about how to manage your to-do list, I talk about it specifically in there. On the same token, if you haven't checked out that, make sure that you go to my website and download it. It's free. It makes managing your to-do list super easy. Now, in there, I talk about breaking down those tasks into things that are less than 2 minutes. So if you find yourself running out of time and you're like, there's just not enough time to do it all, I'm just doing my best, you could be missing out on those small pockets of time that you think to yourself, oh, it's just 2 minutes. I can't get anything done in that time. I'll just scroll on social media. But my friend, you can. And that's why you are missing out on a huge opportunity to get all these little tasks done in those small pockets of time. Most people don't have a chunk of 2 or 3 hours to dedicate to a goal, but what they do have are small pockets of time. Maybe when they're waiting to pick up their kids from soccer practice, or they're in the carpool line, or that time that you do spend surfing on social media, you could be doing all those small tasks. So if you haven't done it before, I highly recommend that you track your time because you can see those little pockets of time that you might actually be missing because you just don't realize that they're even there. This one is a big one. And if you hear nothing else from this podcast, make sure you hear me now. You've got to be willing to say no. Now that jumps back to our previous point about running out of time. You're trying to do it all. There is a give and take with where you're at in your life. And you are most likely going to have to say no to certain things in order to get these goals accomplished, because you might honestly just have too much on your plate. And it's okay to transition the things that don't bring you joy onto someone else, so that way they can find fulfillment in those tasks. Now you might be saying to yourself, but I have to do all this stuff. Here's where you want to go back and track your time, because you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I have to send out all these invoices for a nonprofit I'm working for. But how long does that actually take? If you sat down with focused work, could you get it done in 10 minutes? Probably, but maybe not. So that comes back to budgeting enough time in your calendar to make sure that you're getting those tasks done. Because let me tell you what an amazing feeling it is when you accomplish a task in a shorter amount of time than you think you need to, and then you can go do another one. And pretty soon, it's like the domino effect. All these tasks start getting marked off your calendar, and it's such a good feeling. So I encourage you to make your list, get it on your calendar, because that is going to make the biggest difference in making sure that you get things done. One final thought, take notes when it doesn't work. This might seem silly because you're like, I don't really want to remember when I failed, but trust me, taking notes when something doesn't work. So an example might be, I am creating a course and I've allotted a certain amount of time for what I need to get done, but it turns out it wasn't enough time. Taking notes on what worked and what didn't can really help you with future goals or future projects, because then you're better able to determine how much time those tasks actually take you. By referring back to your notes when you're looking at a new goal will better help you allocate a certain amount of time, so that way you're more successful on this new project.